Hi everybody, I'm Adriana from SweetSister.love. How are you today? I am coming on with a little bit of a share. I went to the movies last night with my sister. I've been making it my business to spend less time outside being pulled by friends and parties and invites and outings and classes and all those really fun, really wonderful, really valuable things. But instead, I've been deciding that I should spend more time with my family, be with my sons, be with my sister, spend time in my inner circle. And so last night we went to go see Superman, and it was a really good movie, but I spent a large part of the movie crying because I feel so much in my heart that need for a hero, for someone to like swoop down and stop all of the bad things that are happening to innocent people. And I have to contend with this quiet joy also because, my life isn't perfect, but I live a really great life. I have a very full life. I eat well, I exercise, I have work that is noble, and I have a hobby, and I'm building on my writing. Like, I have such a full life. And usually the two things I'm worried about is money and love. And what a privilege it is to say that the only two things on my mind is, having a boyfriend and more money in the bank. And although Superman is not a sad movie, it's a hero movie, it ends well. We all have a happy ending. But it's just so reminiscent of what's happening in the world right now. And I started to think of myself as a little girl. And I remember, as far back as I can remember, I've felt this way. Just this deep sadness over the state of the world. When I was little, I grew up watching, Save the Children Foundation, and there were images of starving children. And I never understood why we didn't just feed the world. Like, why weren't we just feeding the world? Why wasn't the world eating? Why isn't the world eating every day? Why are we fighting such horrific and violent wars? Why are people being beaten because they're Black, or because they come from another country, or because they practice a different religion? And since childhood, I've had this pang and this longing for a hero. And a lot of us, we turn to God. God, when are you coming? If you believe in Jesus Christ, sometimes I look up at the heavens and I'm like, Jesus, now would be a good time to change the hearts of all the people. And I start to wonder, like, are you coming? Is he coming? There's a lot of holy rollers out there who say he is. And we've lived through so much pain and suffering already. How much more? How much more? We now have, in my country, the United States, we now have a president who seems to be able to rally a really big support for hateful policy. And I just think that Jesus Christ and Superman should come now. They should come now. And it makes me ask, well, if no one is coming, and I am to live as Jesus lived, right? That's what the good book tells us. Then what am I waiting for? What am I waiting for to do something? What can I do? What should I do? and I feel powerless for the troubles of the world. I'm not powerless in my own life. There are things I can shift and change. There are things that I can do. But what do I do about the suffering of the world? What do I do about babies and children everywhere who don't eat, who see war with their own two eyes? It falls on their doorstep. What do we do about that? And I think that right now we are living the spiritual battle, like the difference between good and evil. And we are living that in our hearts. So every decision you make, every vote you cast, every deed, is it in support of a loving world, or is it in support of this perpetual hate, this perpetual harm? And I want to invite every single one of us, I'm inviting myself, to tune into love and to do the most loving thing that I can in my life. And so I've pulled back my energy from all those outside places, from anything that feels unstable. If I have to wonder about it, if I have to think, is it not? Then I don't even waste my time. And I certainly don't waste my money. I pull my energy back and I reroute all of those resources to my home, to my family, to my kids, to my nephew, to my mother, to my sister. And this little circle of 6 is what matters most. And this little circle of 6 is where I put my heart and soul and where I put my energy. And when I work on something, I work on it thinking about these 6 people. Because if the world ended tomorrow, which I pray it doesn't, but if the war landed on my doorstep, who would I most want to be with me? Who would I want to hold and try to protect? Whose life would I want to save? It would be these 6 people. And so I'm doing everything I can to live in alignment with what I feel about them. And I know it isn't like any real world solution, but it's a start. It's a start. And if I can love my family into seeing the truth, that everyone deserves kindness, that none of our tax dollars should be going to fund a war anywhere. The governments have a responsibility to feed and house and support the masses. And when they don't, it's our job to tell them. It's our job to pull our money, our funding, to put our energy away. And I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's coming, but I feel like it's very big. And I want to be grounded. I want to be grounded for the fight. I want to be grounded for the revolution. I want to be grounded in my conviction, my North Star. I want my North Star to be a movement of love. Everyone should be free. Everyone should be free. Because if everyone isn't free, then you aren't either. And it kills me that doesn't make sense to people, that it doesn't click. You know, there's a list. There's a priority. And the guys at the top of the list who suffer the most, those of us on the bottom of the list are finding excuses and finding ways to justify why those on the top of the list get to suffer and we don't. And we don't realize that once those are crossed off the list, they start to move down the list. And who do you think is next? Who do you think is next? We should be scared. We should be. And even though we're scared, we should stand up to the bullies. We should stand up to the bullies in our lives, personal lives, and we should stand up to the bullies in government. We should stand up to the bullies globally. And I really want to be a force for good. I really want to be a voice that influences. I do. Because if everybody could feel that feeling that I have about the suffering of the world, we could really do something. I can't do it by myself, but we can do it together. And we're so divided right now that all it causes is an argument. You know what that's like, to argue with the people that you love? We have to see what's being reflected back at us through the news, through the world horrors. And we have to begin to alchemize and shift that energy. And the way that we shift that energy is to make it really personal and to do the things that need to be done in our own circle, in our own lives. And that has a ripple effect. It's both. It's what we do for the world and it's what we do for ourselves. And they are not separate. They are not different issues. They are the same. Anyway, if you get to watch Superman and you have thoughts about it, I'd love for you to leave a comment so that we can sort of like, you know, digest what we're feeling and how movies and the things of life help us to open our eyes. I wish I had this superpower that I could create a bubble and that no bullets, no war, nothing could pass that bubble, you know? And I would put the children of Palestine inside of that bubble and no bullets and no bombs could reach. Everything would just bounce off. And they would have to stop bombing because everything they threw our way would bounce back onto them. And so to harm us would be to harm themselves. If I could put a bubble around all of the addicts of the world, you know, in the United States, we have a really big addiction problem and nobody wants to look at. I would put a bubble around women. The mistreatment of women gets overlooked. Men get away with rape and murder and violence. Men get away with manipulation and torture. And women, even though we tell our stories, nobody believes us. And I would put a bubble around us. I would put a bubble around every gay, trans, lesbian person who's being persecuted. I would put a bubble around the elderly who are forgotten, sometimes even by their own children. And I would put a bubble around myself and my family. That no harm, no envy, no sickness, no poverty, not even any arguments land at our door. that we let love circulate so freely between us, that our safety with each other is inherent, it's a given. And I pray that for you and yours too. Thanks for listening. You can find me at sweetsister.love. That's my website. You can find me on Substack as Single and Happy. And I'm here on YouTube as Students of Starting Over. Thanks.